Hello everybody. Here's an old laptop I got, a budget laptop I bought several years ago. I think it's about 7 years ago. It came with 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is used also for the iGPU inside it. The CPU is the N2840. It's an old Celeron. I think it's a dual core. And it's really bad. You can play some games, but that's about it. Now, the 2 gigabytes of RAM, I was not very pleased. I decided to check if it can take an upgrade, and I did an upgrade in storage. I replaced the internal hard drive with an SSD. Not a very good SSD, but not a bad either. Unfortunately, that didn't seem to do as much as I wanted in terms of gaining performance. So a few months ago I decided to also upgrade the RAM. According to HP, I think you cannot do it, so I decided to do it. And as you'll see here, doing a quite intensive disassembling, I managed to get inside and indeed upgrade the RAM from 2 gigabytes, which this comes with, to 8 gigabytes. It's a single channel stick, unfortunately, because, well, more precisely, it has only one DIMM slot, so you have to have only one DIMM inside. Thankfully, it is not impossible to replace it, as I already said. And yes, you can actually, in theoretically, place their internal optical drive too. I'm thinking about it when if I have money, because right now things are not going well. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, it doesn't have a fan inside, which I love, and doesn't really need it. During tests, the internal temperature went up to 50 degrees, I believe, 53 or something, and never over that, without actually throttling at all. That is because it is actually quite low heat CPU, and because it sucks. Now, that is the Wi-Fi module, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else to talk about the disassembling and all that. It took I think about half an hour. Got delayed a few times because I messed up trying to remove some of the cables. I don't know, my mind just didn't work for some reason. Anyway, as you can see, I have well, as you will see, I have performed many game tests, and which will follow this disassembling. And after that I'll have some numbers from Cinebench and all that. Not really important. What is important is the numbers I got from the game, testing the games with 2 and 8 gigabytes, and the very strange results, which I'll talk about later. Well, here it is. Yes, you saw that right. The results are all over the place. At first glance, it doesn't make much sense. Games which should perform better with the extra RAM don't always do. In fact, many times they perform the same or even worse. There are times when games refuse to load with the extra RAM too, though the opposite also takes place. I simply can't figure out for certain what the issue is. Using 8GB, the iGPU received up to 2GB of video memory, which is much more than what it receives when you have 2GB of RAM. The system overall feels a bit faster doing regular Windows light work, but games? The only thing I can think of is that the extra power the iGPU gets with the extra video RAM requires extra CPU processing which it can handle. So depending on the game, the processing time it gives to the iGPU takes too much from the regular CPU processing time for everything else, which then slows down the game. In games where the CPU is not as stressed, it gives better overall performance, or the same exact. The other thing I noticed, which is not easily noticeable with watching clips of these games, is that for some games where the frame rate remains the same, or perhaps lower, the game actually feels a bit more smooth, which again doesn't make sense if I'm right about my previous hypothesis. Cinebench wise, on R15 we get a barely higher result, where in R20 the points increase with 8GB is noticeable. So is it worth upgrading the RAM on this and similar systems from a gaming performance point of view? My first answer is yes, unless the game you want to run performs worse with 8GB. Windows overall performance is slightly better, at least Windows 8.1 which this system runs. So if you want a laptop for general light work and web browsing, upgrading the RAM also makes sense. Make sure you get not too expensive RAM kit, but also RAM kit which is of the same type as the one inside the laptop, and you should in theory have overall better performance. Just don't depend on it doing anything for most games, at least anything positive, and hope the games you want to run won't perform worse or not at all with the extra RAM. Thank you very much for watching.